A little under 2 weeks ago, ARIC ALMIORLA was your winner from New Hampshire in upset fashion, on top of a wild race heading into the 2-week Olympic break. It all kicked off in just the first 8 laps. There was a lot of rain going on in New Hampshire, and then the 2 leaders, Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch, both slid up the track and crashed out. The 18 car was unable to continue, while Truex had to spend a lot of time repairing his car, and by the end of it salvaged a 12th place finish. Denny Hamlin also spun around the same time as his teammates did, but not as severe as to likes of those two. He was still able to get stage points and a decent finish. And looking over our results here, JackuwarzWN took quite the hit on that lap 8 incident. The starter picks aren't too bad, but the bonus picks were far off. If Christopher Bell had a few more laps, he probably would have caught up to ARIC ALMIORLA. With the track falling into darkness, the race had to be called off a few laps early. And in WastElliott, a little bit more of the same. Kurt Busch is in here, with no bonus points to back up those lackluster points. Big Stenhouse also a goose egg in the bonus picks, really reminding me of my 2019 season, where I had to really rely on the starters. But as we get into NoChevy, things finally get to pick up. We got Ford and Top Toyota correct, and with the help of Kevin Harvick, Christopher Bell, and Ryan Blaney, this is our first lineup to reach above 200 points. And yeah, of course, JackuwarzWN Network is going to join NoChevy as another 200-point day from New Hampshire. What really set the bar here is having Brad Keselowski alongside Ryan Blaney. World Network also got the same amount of bonus points. Instead of Christopher Bell, there's Kyle Larson in the top Chevrolet. And here alongside some of my other lineups, mainly the ones that had Joey Logano and Martin Truex Jr. Good call leaving in Logano, because the difference there is Logano had a penalty on working on his car during the red flag, which put him 2 laps down, whereas Truex was spending most of his race fixing damage. Logano got some timely yellows and was able to get his laps back and salvaged a top 5 finish. Looking at the top 8 results from New Hampshire, a lot of Fords. The Toyotas join them in the top 6. Then you have to go all the way to Kyle Larson finishing 7th, not only on the track but with the most points, first Chevrolet to score the most points. And then tied for 8th is Ross Chastain and Joey Logano for players that are absolutely spent on usages and ended up picking up him. Nice call. They're really getting their points in. And so that's my quick results of New Hampshire. Quite the oddball kind of race, but if you line up this race's results with other New Hampshire results, then it's quick to see that Ford and Toyota have definitely got this place figured out, with the likes of Chevrolet far in the distance. But it's been nearly 2 weeks, we haven't had any racing thanks to the Olympics, and now we're finally back to racing at Watkins Glen. For a refresher, here's the playoff cut line, with 4 races to go. With ARIC ALMIORLA winning, the playoff cut line shifts upwards once again. This time it's looking like only one of the Richard Childress cars can make it into the playoffs. Kevin Harvick gets moved closer to the cut line thanks to ALMIORLA's win. I'd surmise in these last few races he's going to be gunning for a few extra stage points, only for insurance. And looking at the 2 Richard Childress cars that are on that cut line, give the edge to Tyler Reddick because he's able to get better results at these 2 road courses coming up, a lot better than Austin Dillon. Everyone that's Chris Buescher and back that are 100 and beyond points behind Tyler Reddick, they're all essentially in must-win situations. Unless something catastrophically happens to either Harvick, Reddick, or Dillon, any of those drivers gain massive points in these last 4 races, then it's going to be very difficult for any of these other drivers to get their way in on points. Looking at our tier list here, because of how usages are spent, a lot of players are going to be depending on Christopher Bell and Kurt Busch. Kyle Larson is in blind spot plays, only because most players have been out of Kyle Larson plays, including myself, and he's sitting at only 18% as of Friday night. Possibly a similar story with Kyle Busch. He's at 14%, but that can contribute more to his starting position in 20th. Let's talk about Martin Truex Jr. from the top plays. Even at 1 usage remaining, you want to spend it here at Watkins Glen. I honestly wish I was in that situation, but I have 2 more usages on top of that, so I have to use it for not just here, but also Michigan and Indianapolis. But back to Watkins Glen. Alongside Chase Elliott, Martin Truex has been putting up tons of top 5 results here. He's the last driver to win at Watkins Glen that's not named Chase Elliott back in 2017. And right alongside Sonoma, Watkins Glen is Truex's best road course track. In blind spot plays, this is quite interesting. It really depends if you can play some of these drivers. Like I said with Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch, even at 1 Larson play remaining, I can kind of back that up with the idea of playing him at Watkins Glen, but most players are going to be saving from Michigan. The most interesting driver from this group I'd say is Joey Logano. Now looking at his stats from Watkins Glen alone, they're hardly anything to be impressed by. But just starting last year in 2020, Logano has been a lot better on these road courses. It might come from him benefiting from the crew chief swap at 2020. Him getting Paul Wolfe has for sure boosted his stats at road courses. And this year in 2021, that's been no exception. Logano's easily the best Ford driver on these road courses in this year. And never mind his past stats in Watkins Glen in particular, if Logano can get a top 5 at Sonoma, then having a top 3 starting position, I don't think that's going to change. Not at all for this week. In my long shot plays, a lot of suspect drivers that are always here every week, such as Michael McDowell, Erik Jones, Chris Buescher. Chase Briscoe is going to be a nice option for road courses, not just here, but for next week at Indianapolis. But in the middle of that list, let's give Bubba Wallace the nod. In the last few road courses, Bubba's been improving on, and I don't think he's horrible at road courses anymore. He's still far from amazing to the likes of Chase Elliott or Martin Truex Jr., and I wouldn't dare pick him as the top Toyota. But if there's one thing that Bubba has going for Watkins Glen, it is the large amount of success Toyota has had at Watkins Glen. If Erik Jones and Daniel Suarez can get massive points and multiple top 10s at Watkins Glen, then I surmise why not Bubba can. Still though, Bubba's a long shot play. Outside of Pocono earlier this season, and I suppose the Daytona 500, Bubba hasn't quite had a lot of big successes here in 2021 with 2311 Racing, and you're probably better off picking the 23 car for Daytona. But among those 3 tracks, you could probably get away with a Bubba play either here, maybe at Indianapolis as well, if the likes of Chase Briscoe, Matt DiBenedetto, or Michael McDowell aren't your fancy for that garage pick, then I can stick Bubba in as the 4th driver from that list. Play with caution, Brad Keselowski, Kevin Harvick. They're starting in the top 5, but haven't had quite the big numbers at the road courses this year. Keselowski had his good run at Daytona Road Course, so did Kevin Harvick. But outside those 2 tracks, you can easily skip out on them, even with Brad Keselowski's pole position. And if you had to ask me, I like his teammate Ryan Blaney a little bit more if you want to pair him with Joey Logano in your lineup. Now as crew chief Todd Gordon, he hasn't had very many success at the road courses, not last year with Blaney or the year before with Joey Logano, and I think you might have to wait until the Charlotte Roval if you want to for sure bet that Ryan Blaney's going to do good at a road course. But there is this one stat that intrigues me about Blaney this weekend. His starting spot of 3rd is going to be the best in all of his careers at road course starts. And along with Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano, Team Penske as a whole, if they have an opportunity to earn stage points, they'll likely go for it. And seeing all 3 of those cars in the top 3 starting spots, how could you not go for at least one of them? Maybe 2. In the avoids, this is quite the obvious groups of drivers you want to stay away from, and that's really because of their stats on road courses this year. Austin Dillon and Cole Custer, all of their bad results this year have come at road courses. But of all these drivers, only one of these are starting in the top 10, that being the New Hampshire winner, Aric Almirola. If you want a safe bet on which one of those top 10 drivers that aren't going to be there by the end of the race, likely Almirola won't be there. Throughout his tenure in that 10 car, Aric hasn't quite had a lot of good results in road courses. I'd much rather go Chase Briscoe or Kevin Harvick if you really want to go from the Stewart-Haas camp. Plus, there's not very few tracks that you're going to get a good Almirola start. Those ships sailed long ago with New Hampshire, Phoenix, and Richmond, and you might want to wait until the playoffs start if you want to play Almirola again. Time to finally make our picks for Watkins Glen. I've been waiting all Olympic break for this. And so here's what I have. For JackuwarzWN, we're out of Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson plays. The 2 Chase Elliott and Joey Logano plays, I think you know where I'm going to play those 2 at the remaining road courses. With Ryan Blaney at 3 plays left, there is one thing I want to mention. At the beginning of the season, I sacrificed 1 point to save an extra Ryan Blaney play, and just for that alone, I feel I have to get in all of my usages with him. Otherwise, me sacrificing that 1 point at the Daytona 500, it could be in vain. I know this is quite the gamble with Ryan Blaney at road courses this year, but if I can get 1 play with him in at either Watkins Glen or Indianapolis, and then play him at Michigan and Daytona, then I can fulfill that. As much as I want to play Alex Bowman for this week, I think I'm going to leave him out just barely, so that way I can have room for Ryan Blaney. And looking at the actual lineup, it would be nice to throw in the likes of Tyler Reddick and Ross Chastain in here as well, from how good they were at Road America, but I think Kurt Busch and Christopher Bell should be just as good. Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., and Joey Logano, those are my first 3 picks amongst these starters. You'll also see Chase Elliott all the way throughout my bonus picks. I'd say it'd be ill-advised to go against picking Elliott at Watkins Glen. He won the last 2 races here, and need I say more, Elliott's the king of road courses. Now, WastElliott isn't going to have Chase Elliott. We ran out of plays with him all the way back at Talladega. Denny Hamlin, we used his last play last race at New Hampshire. And so, if we don't have a Chase Elliott play, I'd say we get his teammate Kyle Larson in as a good supplement. Not only to get in his last start, but also he gets the race win, if say Elliott doesn't. Going back to what I mentioned about Ross Chastain and Tyler Reddick from JackuwarzWN, we'll give WastElliott those two. At 2 plays left, I think I have to play Alex Bowman here. That way we're not leaving it up to Indianapolis and Michigan. If we can get the usage down to 1 there, then I have the leverage of picking either of those 2 tracks, rather than forcing myself to play both those tracks. As per usual, I don't give this lineup too many strong bonus picks. I give it more of the long ball ones, and that's why you see Kevin Harvick as the top Ford and Denny Hamlin as the top Toyota. If you want my best pick from top Toyota, either Kyle Busch or Martin Truex Jr. And then as for top Ford, either Ryan Blaney or Joey Logano. Thanks to the abundance of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. plays in Pick Stenhouse, we still have all the usages for all the drivers. Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson, we still have 1 play left here. Now we won't be using that final Denny Hamlin play here. As much as I think all 4 Toyotas is going to be running well, we'll save that for Michigan. And the duo of Martin Truex and Kyle Busch here is more than enough. Now if you do have 1 Larson play, you can also save that for Michigan. But Watkins Glen is also a good option for Larson. Kevin Harvick is going to be an interesting pick because he's going to be needing more stage points after the playoff cut line has been shifted twice in the last 2 races. And even though Watkins Glen isn't ideal for Harvick, he still can get some decent points from this track. NoChevy ran out of Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and Ryan Blaney plays, and we're really scraping the barrel for this lineup this week. But I think for Watkins Glen, we might be alright here. If we simply plug in plays from Matt DiBenedetto, Chase Briscoe, and Michael McDowell, with me struggling to get in consecutive Joey Logano plays even for this lineup, we could really lean on the 22 car, hopefully, all the way through the end of this regular season, minus Michigan. I don't think I'm going to be playing Logano there. Jackuwarz World Network, I felt for a while was going to be behind on usages. I spent most of Chase Elliott's plays early, but looking at them now, I think we're just fine. One interesting thing is this lineup has 2 Kyle Busch plays, whereas the other Jackuwarz doesn't have any. And I feel sometime before the end of Michigan, we do need to get in both those Kyle Busch plays. And we'll start here, as he's going to join the other 3 Joe Gibbs drivers in this lineup. Yeah, that's how much I highly think of Joe Gibbs Racing and any Toyotas that start at Watkins Glen. They're going to be running good, and I wouldn't count out a single one of those Toyotas. And because of that, that's going to be tough to fit in drivers other than the likes of Chase Elliott and Joey Logano. Not having Kurt Busch or Alex Bowman's going to sting quite a bit, but having 4 Toyotas, that's the approach I want to take for World Network. And that's my picks for Watkins Glen. The race this Sunday is at noon Pacific Standard Time. The race is 90 laps long, and the garage picks lock up at lap 40 at the end of stage 2. It's been quite a while since we had any on-track action, and we're finally back to racing after a long Olympic break. Enjoy the Watkins Glen weekend. After that is Indianapolis for the road course race there for the first time in Cup history. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll catch you next time.